And it is time for Planet Collingwood. My name is Monty Dean. Welcome to Revolution Radio Studio A. And it's Australia Day here in this moment of time. I'm not sure for how long because people want to change the date, but we'll get into that because, Australia Day is only for apparently 97% of the population. The 3% that have been here for hundreds of thousands of years call it Invasion Day or Mourning Day. And yeah, it's kind of un-Australian. So, maybe we should find a day where everyone enjoys the day, like in the United States with the 4th of July, but not Columbus Day. So, I've got material. Now, a big thank you to Tony, Why Not, and the Y-Files and the gentlemen. They keep saying it's not a real round table, and yet it's gentlemen around a table talking. I don't know. It's day 5 of the heat wave here, and the rain finally turned up. So I don't know. My brain's not working. It's a little bit cooked. I'm sweating again. I'm sharing too much, but I am wearing pants. My name is not Tubin. If you enjoyed the last 2 hours, please go to freedomslips.com and or revolution.radio and click on the Patreon button and donate what you can. $5 here, $4,000 there. We have options. We don't accept children. We are not the elite. And evil men and women and reptilians, and it just goes on. And once you're at the website, pop into merchandising and buy some swag, as the kids would say, like t-shirts, onesies for the kids, mouse pads, cups, and all that type of stuff. And then pop into the chat room and see if it's working. Yeah, bad joke. Well, it is 100. We are 100% listener supported and 100% volunteer. If you want me to make good jokes, send me money. There, I've said it. I've been doing this for 7 years. It's like, your comedy's terrible. Well, it's for free. Imagine if you paid for it. Yeah, there you go. Now, I have been joined by our correspondents around the globe, Central America and just off Africa. Please welcome back Bruce MacDonald and Raz.
Hello.
Hello. Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, bring the hype. Hello. How are we all? As I said, it's day 5 or 6 of a heat wave. I'm not complaining. It's just it's summer in Australia, so really, it's hot. The thing is that it's taken 4 days for the cool change to come through. That's my issue. But
Yeah, well, it's summer here too, and since all of us, like all 3 of us, are in the southern hemisphere. Yeah, it's been hot, man. It's been very, very hot. It's been heat wave, slightly less than heat wave, slightly. The heat wave. I've been living on 16 degrees for the last 26 days, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, Bruce is just over. You're above the equator, aren't you, Bruce, in Costa Rica?
Just north. It goes through the top of Colombia, and then there's Panama, and then there's Costa Rica.
But he can see it from there. That's the point. So I mean, really, it's.
I can almost urinate over the line, Monty.
Yeah, but after watching Narcos, I wouldn't do that. Colombians are very passionate about that. Like, hey man, the gringo's pissing on our line again, eh? Mm-hmm. So where do we want to start? We've got Australia Day, where Invasion Day, but that happens every year. It's kind of get boring, but it's Australia Day. Yay! We should change the date. My idea is every 3rd Thursday of January, so that way the date keeps changing, because Australia became a nation on January the 1st, and we like our holidays, and that's already New Year's Day. So we can't have 2 holidays on one. That's just not right. But if it's the 3rd Thursday, it's not. It's between. It doesn't get to the 26th of January. However, it's still in summer. It's still a holiday, and you can take the Friday off and have a 4-day weekend if you choose to. Can you see all the pros and there's a lot of cons here. No pros here. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's where.
Well.
And yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say let's start with Canada, because it seems to be the Australia of 2022.
Yes, it's like those wacky Canucks have gone. Those Aussies had a go, but we can do it Canadian style. We add mousse and maple syrup. That's how hardcore we are.
Yeah, it's getting pretty funny to sort of listen in on these phone calls between my son and his mom in the West End of Toronto. And she's pretty much a news believer. And, she's telling him they're not going to let him back in. He's never going to get back into Canada. And she might not be, I don't know, but there's just wacky stuff now, right? You got the big trucker convoy. They say that's 70 kilometers long now. And what is particularly infuriating for Canadians is the transparency of the censorship now. So not knowing how long it would go or if it would really take off, it departed from British Columbia. And the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation out of British Columbia did do a story on it, but they said that the convoy was formed to protest or to make people aware of the danger of icy roads in the winter. Or some nonsense like this. And, it's the kind of jarring Soviet moment that wakes a lot of people up, because that's when you can prove to your mom, hey, mom, this is what they say in the CBC. This is what it really is. And then people go, well, why would the CBC lie? And then they start tugging on the yarn.
Yeah. That
small pebble at
the small pebble at the top of the mountain. Why are they saying that?
Yeah.
Bruce, when you say transparent with, censorship, you mean how shameless and brazen they are?
Yeah.
Not necessarily transparent, as in willingly transparent. They're more shameless with it now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think part of a person's responsibility on being on air now is always retouching the baseline of what alternative radio is about, and speaking to the people who are just sort of waking up, like I did with that CBC anecdote. And then there's the deeper layer of the onion, which we sometimes enjoy on Planet Collingwood. And for the life of me, guys, I'll tell you how I see the dilemma, and I will admit openly that I'm sitting on the fence. I don't know if this is them completely screwing up or them so in control they don't care if we know anymore. And I'm not saying I'm losing sleep over it, but it's have they won and they're openly mocking us now? And,
no, it's in their ammo to do it openly. But before there was a certain layer of shrouding, but now they are confident enough with the IQ drop to actually just do it openly. And I must say they are quite they should be optimistic right now to expect us to just gob it up, and over time it will just become normalized, and that will be a harder layer to wake up normies, because it's normalized then. It's always been like that. Maybe that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that. What is worse, incompetence or corruption? And I think we're seeing both. Like they're incompetent with their corruption, where it's so blatant now. I don't think it is that we've won and we can do what we want, because they're still on the back foot on certain aspects. And so their belief is that they're right. I think that's where they're coming from. Where no, we can keep pushing that out, and the narrative is so weak now. Whereas, Let's Go Brandon is a perfect example. Like, if you know that story where the journalist thinking on her feet because they were saying F Joe Biden, and she just went, oh, look, they're praising you, Brandon, for your win. They're saying let's go Brandon in the background. You got the chant going, and it's like, that's how transparent that the media is, where there's no intelligence involved, where it's like, I think that there's that cockiness of we're obviously winning, we can do what we want. And so they can put out all this stupidity about things.
The narrative right now is just a dartboard, and they're throwing whatever they can, whatever sticks, and probably they're gonna reignite it post 2024. But right now they're just throwing a bunch of stuff and see what sticks. As for Let's Go Brandon, that's just their way of doing things. That's just part of the media's, let's just call it cock-up cascade, because that's been happening for a long time. People simply weren't aware of it. It simply wasn't visible. But if you go all the way back, you would see this a lot, especially when it comes to things like climate change or sexual stuff or even gender. You will see that a lot because I do remember the magazine from the 90s, from the early 2000s. I used to read a lot. And now when I think about the garbage that I read, I'm like, these people were just taking the piss, you know? Just right on our face.
Well, are they though? Because satire is dying or it's dead. There are people that believe this stuff where there is 87 different genders, and if you, because we're talking about it in a negative light, all of a sudden we're transphobic or bigots or just full of hate, and it's like, well, we're just using science.
No, I was referring to the, all heterosexual men and women are totally the same. The old swan song from the 90s and 2000.
Oh, yeah.
Where you can neither be properly masculine, nor you can be properly feminine because we're all together, we're all the same. And as a youngster reading it back in the day, I believed it because I didn't know any better, So that's just one of the things.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're all human, but there is gender or not even sexual preference, but it comes down to it's in the DNA. Like if you die, if you think that you're a cabbage and you identified as a cabbage, and I'm going to go out there and think that you're scientifically a male. I don't want to cause dispersions here. But if you die and 100 years later, in 100 years' time, an archaeologist would dig you up and look at your skeleton and go, oh, this is a male. But you think you're a cabbage. See, that's the issue there.
What do you think the spirituality side of gender is, Monty?
Well, see, like the human body, it comes with a template. That's the other thing. It's not like, I mean, homosexuality is in all through nature. It's not hardcore. That's the other issue that we have is that all this, dare I say, perverseness. It's when they go, it's a political wing and they go after children. Now, there's other people. Blair White is a perfect example. I believe she went through puberty and then transitioned, and she's getting a lot of grief because she keeps thinking critically. Don't give a 3-year-old puberty blockers, where they say she's a transgender woman that is popular on YouTube, and like she's been on Tim Pool and Michael Malice, and so yeah, she's a YouTuber and she's known. And dare I say, she's one of the good ones. And she's an attractive young woman.
I know that.
Yeah. So basically, she rallies against all this stupidity because it's like it turns into the example I give is the organisation Amway. It's like that. Instead of actually find out who you are spiritually, where it could be an expression of the female divinity and male divinity expressing themselves at different points, but go through puberty first, so to understand exactly where you are and what your expression is. But you're in a human meat sack, a human body, as a spirit having a human experience on Earth. And I mean, you can condense it down. You're either heterosexual, homosexual, or bisexual. Everything else is just shades of grey. Not the book, but you understand what I'm trying to say.
I want to bring up something because Bruce started with Canada, and last Friday, was it? You guys had a comedy show. Was it last Friday?
Yes.
I think so. Comedy show with Bartitz.
Oh, yeah.
And Bruce, tell me about this. Canada, because David said he's moved to a redneck area away from them. So how bad is because I from my screen perspective, because I see it from a fucking trail, Canada has quite the zombie liberal mindset many places, especially in its big cities. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say the most afflicted group consciousness on the planet right now. And what Canada reminds the world of, if it has any spiritual lesson for the world, is that sooner or later there's a price to apathy.
Yeah, Canadian apathy. Yeah, I remember you saying
that.
Yeah,
but this is not a time for apathy. And if apathy is your go-to and you're just faking waking up and getting through your day every day, you're going to get caught in a snare this time.
Tell me something.
People have to make a moral decision about what's going on around them now. It can't be avoided.
You can use apathy though when you're dealing with products from the entertainment industry. What you're saying, Bruce, is 100% correct. You can't use apathy for everything else. But instead of like saying, apparently Star Trek Discovery has been renewed for a 5th season. Why? Now the thing is, don't answer that question, because by talking about it, even in a negative light, it's giving it energy. So using apathy, oh yeah, whatever. It's the only place you can sort of use the apathy. It's a weapon in the culture war. But spiritually, you can't have apathy where you ignore everything else like that. I mean, in Canada, you've got that cognitive dissonance where you've got a prime minister who's calling people racist, and yet he's blackfaced 3 or 4 times. It's like,
he's the ultimate hypocrite. I think 6 weeks after his government brought in a policy of believing all claims made by women, a 0 tolerance for sexual assault or violence against women. 6 weeks after his government brought in that bill, and he introduced the bill personally, he got called on a 20-year-old sexual assault claim from when he was in his 20s. And it was a newspaper reporter from a small weekly newspaper in the British Columbia interior, because even before he was prime minister, he was interviewed from time to time because he was the son of our most famous prime minister, right?
Yeah.
And her editor backed her up, like even in like 2018, he stepped forward and said, I'm not going to name her, but I was her editor at the time, and she came and spoke to me about it. It definitely happened. And he didn't step down. He didn't reprimand himself 6 weeks after a 0 tolerance legislation. It's unbelievable. It's like do what I say, not what I do, Prime Minister.
It's there's the term political theatre, but this is just ridiculous theatre where building the BBC 20 minute building 7 has collapsed. What, the building behind you that's still up?
Well, Monty, let me lay another row of block in the wall of my thesis tonight. Is it really stupid, or are they doing it on purpose? Because I'm starting to think they're gaslighting us, man. Like at the most intense periods of lockdown and face masking, they're posing for G7 pictures, hugging each other with no masks. You know, if you look at every step of what's happened, the alignment of like this sort of 1-to-1, black and white polarity, do as we say, not as we do thing, has been haunting this entire movement towards tyranny and crackdown. And that's what they do, is they gaslight you, right? So this is the new normal. There's us as this is one class of citizen, and so on and so forth. And there's a whole dimension to COVID that we haven't really gone into. And let's just call it the Western capitalist version of the Chinese organ harvesting prison. There has been rampant organ harvesting and selling throughout COVID. You know that, right?
No, but it doesn't surprise me.
Like the patients, the patients who've been off in a corner, due to COVID.
Yeah, no, the deaths and stuff like that. There's still a lot of organs that can be sold, kidneys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like little Timmy fell off the stairs and he died from COVID. Next thing you know, he's on his organs is in a petri dish somewhere. That sort of thing.
Yeah, I find the world becoming more China. And I saw China before most people did, because I took an interest in it very young, because I went over there in the early 90s.
It's funny you said that, because someone from RT said, if you want to know how the future will be like, just look at China, because China is quite the blueprint of it.
Yeah.
I think even David Rockefeller in his book said he just gushed over how awesome China was back in the 80s. Mind you, also, remember when David Rockefeller died? Everyone, including the Dalai Lama, jumped for joy. That's how much that man was hated. Back to you, Bruce.
I wasn't aware of that. Yeah. So yeah, it's becoming more and more really a classical polarized world, where the poor are just really spare parts for the rich now. I mean, this is what it's coming down to, right? And what we call human dignity and the value of human life, which I would say, based on my travels, is most highly held in the Western world, in the first world democracies. We have the highest value on life. Everywhere else you go in the world, life is a lot cheaper. It just
Yeah, yeah,
is, you
yeah.
know. And
Even though it
it's
was introduced as a smokescreen to implement the new slave labor, but it did kick off, in the West.
yeah.
It wasn't something that was always there. It was introduced with the advent of industrialization.
Yeah, what I find
And
interesting is
yeah.
I'm recently watching a TV show called Peaky Blinders, and it's a crime show. And up where I'm at, I think it's started season 3. They're up to 1924, and so I think that's when the Irish Revolution is kicked off, and that was around that point. So it's after World War One. There's Irish tensions and everything else like that, and it's just the brutality that people were living through only 100 years ago. And it's fascinating to see how we questioned him. You beat the living crap out of him. He's got 7 colours of poo running down his leg, and you found out one bit of information. You know what I mean? The brutality even back then. I maybe after World War II, because everything was so traumatic and out of hand, there was a sort of, not a pushback, but they tried to, hang on, we can do better, and then things went underground. So
let me give you a slice. Let me give you a slice there. After 1945, the people incarnating were a completely new frequency. They weren't the old people anymore. A whole new generation came. That's why when 1950s and 60s came, they were more anti-war and more liberty. And that group then was hijacked with the hippie crap that happened. And here we are.
Well, interesting enough, I'm wondering because apart from mass slaughter on all everywhere, it was like 6 million Jews, 20 million Russians. It's not a numbers game, but the way that it ended is with the atomic war and moving forward like that. And now, from my understanding, those type of weapons actually punch holes in all forms of reality. So I can kind of see where a new wave of people coming like, yeah, maybe we should help out. We're getting close energetically. That humanity could free itself. Also, at some point, the psychopaths are running rudshot over everything, and so I'm not saying it's the reason, but I would probably put forward it probably was a part of the mosaic of the change.
Probably, but. The real problem with nuclear weapons weren't exactly they put holes. They did put holes, and we already have a lot of holes above Earth. But the radiation is actually concentrated cellular hatred, and the Earth and water will soak it. Now, Emperor Hirohito was also a scientist, and they already had the capability of manufacturing nukes, but he chose not to do it. Because he knew the ocean will be absorbing it and it would screw up the next generation. Now, after 1945, the word cancer came to be because of all those nukes they detonated and pretty much blanketed Earth with a lot of radioactivity. That's why we have so much cancer these days, because we've had well over 1,000 nukes detonated for the purpose of nuclear testing.
Yeah, I think it's over 2,000, and according to the map. Yeah, according to the map, the Americans have bombed their own country like 1,500 times. There's actually someone did a animation of all the explosions, atomic atom explosions.
The animation is also in the movie Above Majestic by Wilcock and Corrigan.
Yeah, that would make sense. Because it's just fascinating just to see, like, of course, the Americans would go to the deserts like in Nevada and New Mexico, like Jebez in Las Vegas. That's it. I got stuck on Lost. I was lost on Lost. Anyway, and they have a green sunset sometimes because it used to be the nuclear testing. The English used Wimmera here in Australia, which Aboriginal land as well as in the desert. Where do you think the French did theirs? On an atoll in paradise. How French?
I'll tell you something funny. If you look at the world map, to the northwest of India, you would see a bit of a desert area. That area is there because of the nukes from 10,000 years ago.
Oh, isn't the Gobi Desert, which is in Mongolia, or
It's not natural.
Yeah, it's basically like glass, and that's where the desert's on top of it. Yeah.
Their nuclear weapon at the time was way more powerful. They called it poison wind, and this is where you tie the story to Zachariah Sitchin's Anunnaki.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you.
Well, it's like the second oldest civilization on the planet. My understanding is the Indian, like the actual country India, not the Native Americans, and like they're 65,000 years or something. However, and they've got UFOs, Vedas, mass wards. And
they were part of the old Atlantis.
Yeah. They've got everything in their history, and like if you find the right Indian to talk about it, they're almost a truther just through the knowledge of their history. It's like, well, flying this, yeah. It's just
because in India you have like a pillar standing made of iron that hasn't rusted in 2,000 years. It's like, we need the formula for this. We need the metallurgy for this. They also had wood steel, and wood steel became Damascus steel, and Damascus steel became the superpower for the Arabs for a while, to counter the superpower that was steel for the Romans, because when they were fighting the Gauls and everything, Gauls had bronze, they had steel. That was the superpower of the time. They have a lot of architecture, they have a lot of metallurgy that you can simply look at and go, how did they come up with this? Who made this?
Oh, yeah, the example of pyramids, which are not just Egypt-based, they're around the whole planet, but at Giza, the Great Pyramid is perfection. Like, it's actually 8-sided, and it's just mathematically done, blah, blah. There's so much that blows your mind of like, slaves built this. Now, the funny part of it is, in the history, mainstream history, somehow they made the perfect pyramid, and ever since it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And you look at a pyramid that's made 3,000 years afterward, and it's like, well, that's just 4 blocks on stacked like a triangle. It's where did this? How did you? It's like Sumeria, where apparently how civilization and empires rise and fall. Sumeria, bang, at its height, we're told, and then it just collapsed.
They made it with ropes and pulleys, Monty. You're wrong. I'm the normie who knows. They made it with ropes and pulleys. Everything was made with ropes and pulleys.
Yeah, not sound technology like that guy in Florida. And he died with it, not telling the secret. Well, I would like to meet that soul at some point in future time. Like, why were you a prick? Like, tell people, for God's sake. Because he would get like 3-ton blocks of stuff get delivered on a truck, and then the driver would go away and get a cup of coffee, and 3 hours later come back, and it's standing up on its head at the far end of the like, how did you move that? Ropes and pulleys.
Forget pyramids for a while. In Rome, London, and Washington, we have the obelisks, and the obelisks are from Egypt, the Heliopolis, and they are 500 ton each. How did they get that through? How did they get that across?
Yeah, I like the Simpson gag where you've got the Washington Monument, and then you pull back and you've got the Clinton Monument, and it's 3 times the size. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, I think one stone at a time.
Yeah. Well, that's, I'm spiritual anonymous. I'm living one day at a time, and the cold change has turned up, so I'm having a good day finally. I'm still drowning in my own sweat, but purification.
So you were talking about the the pyramids being perfection and a state of decay ensuing from that architectural perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost the same thing with anything that becomes manifest and idealized, is that it becomes an entropic cycle. So I mean, literature begins with Shakespeare. It's just downhill from there, and really hasn't broken any new boundaries. So I think the point is we have to live a more spontaneous and self-directed and creative life, right? This mimicry stuff, what is this habit we have of like writing everything down? Do we not believe that the next Tesla is going to come? I mean, when you look at all the great breakthroughs, they're usually from somebody who didn't go to the best schools. They just sort of figured it out on their
They're
own.
usually
Right?
outliers and freaks, and they're not part of the norm because they thought out of the box. I mean, Apple had this whole thing about people use our machines because they're the outliers, the free thinkers, and blah blah blah. No, not Unabomber. Like he got nuts, but you have to have well, as a poor example, apparently we cannot go back to the moon because we lost the technology. Get stuffed. Like, really? I'm like, Velcro survived. With everyone, I mean, I'm not a doctor. If I had funding, I still think, and it's been proven, you could run a combustible engine on water, and water is H2O. So you've got hydrogen and oxygen, both burn. So if you put the right amount of electrical charge in the compound, whatever it is, and you split it, you'll be able to burn both of it. And I thought of that, and I'm just a podcaster in Melbourne. Imagine if I got funding. You know what I mean? Like, it's controlling
Bruce,
through, and we can talk about this goes into COVID as well. But go ahead, sorry.
Bruce, what you said earlier about literature and entropy, there's a bit of a pessimistic meta-induction there, because the literature, there's a certain truth that entropy kicks in and it degrades, but it also changes into a novel form, and the novel form will come from the era where that novelty kicked in, and then it would re-emerge with that era's culture, and then it will decay again, and then another one will keep on coming in. So if you graph it, it's a cone, and then it goes down. It's a cone, and then it goes down. It's a cone, and then it goes down. It's not exactly a straight line going down forever and ever and ever and ever, because there is a change in form if you look at it.
But I think what we're getting at is there's an element of control on the planet. Like, you look at technology.
No, it's not a control. It's more of a look. We had Shakespearean literature, and Bruce said Shakespearean literature has gone down ever since. But the whole language has changed. The whole way of writing has changed. The mediums change. Our need for writings change. I mean, really, why do we write things down? Why do we care? You get what I'm saying?
But also on the flip side, like, reading an actual book is a completely different experience than reading it on Kindle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And I mean, you could say it's changing form. And thanks for your review on the Matrix 4. It's I think my comedy is just too subtle for people, Monty.
Well, see, we can only make the other two of us laugh. There are people listening that will be chuckling. So the way I get around, every time my show comes on, the Revolution Radio chat gets really quiet, and my belief is they're laughing so hard they can't get to the keyboard. Let me have that. All right, moving on.
Okay. So, but it's generally when somebody creates the form to express something, that's as good as it's going to be. And then once it's manifest and people can observe it as a manifest thing, it's not something that they have to bring out of their consciousness and manifest. Then you get into the photocopies of the photocopy, and there is a degradation through the transition into form. Now you could make the same. You could take literature out of the equation and just go from Gutenberg to, let's say iPhone 13.
No
advertising dollars have been exchanged for this part of the set. Go ahead.
But I must say, Gutenberg achieved what he wanted to achieve to spread the Bible. And if it came down to my iPhone 13 or the Bible, I would probably choose the Bible at this point. If I had to be on a desert island for 40 years, I would, and I had a good battery. And I think iPhone 13 has a 40-year battery.
I was going to say, but also, I mean, when Gutenberg he did that, he freed a lot of people. That was a game changer from the controlling aspect, because before then, the Bible was only small copies of the Bible, limited copies of the Bible, and they're all in Latin, and only the priest class could learn Latin, and they would actually sort of speak in Latin or translate it to the parishioners. And when Gutenberg came out with his press and they translated the Bible into the local language, that freed up all the controlling element of Christianity changed, where it's like, wait, hang on, I don't need to go to that. I don't have to listen to Father Cockhead. I can actually find my own connection to Christ through this book.
Yeah. Okay. That's sort of tangent. We were talking about entropy and changing forms and stuff.
Well, so I was just adding into the control fact, because from that there was a reaction to it where, like, oh look, we're free to read the Bible in our own language now, and of course the controlling elements were changed. And how many versions of the Bible are in English? Because, like, how many before and after the King James Bible? It's a rhetorical question.
Who's on first?
Stevens.
The answer is numerous, because these days we have Bible for LGBT, we have Bible for people who like pineapple on their pizza, we have Bible for everyone, so it doesn't really matter.
And there's nothing wrong with pineapple on your pizza. A German invented
it.
that in
I
1952.
hate it. It's
well, then don't eat it. Why is it a blasphemy? It works out well. You get pizza. I have the pineapple on my pizza. Everyone wins. There's nothing wrong with having pineapple on the pizza. Now, if I build an army and come to Mauritius and force feed you a pineapple,
someone got triggered.
So that's all about that divide and conquer. It's a division. It's like, yeah. What's Twitter talking about today? If pineapple should go on pizza? Oh, for the love of God, we're back there again. No, I don't even, and not your God, my God.
All right. Back on topic.
Yeah.
What was the topic again? Entropy and novelty. So what I propose, well, it's meaningless for me to propose anything, but the fact that you've noticed that, and a lot of people have noticed it, this form of degradation with each replication, there would be a concerted effort to preserve it. Should there be?
Well, there kind of was, like, before the written writing implements, and I mean, we could put forward that hieroglyphs, and now you've got emojis, and it's like, well, are we going back to hieroglyphs? However, the shamanistic communities and tribes, they would have to use oral tradition. And when oral tradition was done correctly, nothing changed. They had to learn everything by rote to make sure that the information could get passed down to the next generation and the next generation. Because if you just change one word in 4 generations, it can mean something completely different. But that's how knowledge was passed down, was verbally, and it was taught in a very regimental way. So the stories won't change. And then let's go to the Bible, with different versions. Sorry, go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, but you just, let's take something like poetry. I'll start in the English tradition, So you look at somebody like William Butler Yates, who lived well into the 20th century. I mean, he was the last of a kind of European shaman. He had that authentic poetic consciousness that was multidimensional. And he created a language form and an expression form that was inherently beautiful because it was spiritual. Now, flash forward to what's winning pen writer contests and national book awards. And I do take the time to glance at this stuff once in a while just to sicken myself. But, it's, fuck you, cracker, BLM.
Language.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. But, I forget. Yeah, I always forget.
Yeah.
But
I know we say it's a family show, but none of my family listen. Anyway, can I add to it the emergence of hip hop in the form of poetry, and where you listen to a Queen song or just high level of songwriting, and then you look at something like Cardi B or whatever, and it's like they're only singing 4 words, and it's They keep saying the N-word and all women are bitches and, all this degrading stuff. But it becomes the number one, like Wet Ass Pussy was the number one song last year or the year before. That's not really up there with T.S. Eliot now, is it?
That is a concerted effort. I won't call it entropy. That's a purposeful degradation of it. I won't call it a natural entropy. Is there such a thing as a natural entropy?
Well, entropy is natural. Reverse your statement and you've got it.
Not really. A culture can stay static for 20 millennium.
But I'm sure there are poets who have gone on. They've used Yates as a sounding board and moved forward. This is where I'm coming in with not total control, but there's elements of control where people get the knowledge or content would get suppressed because it would probably move humanity forward. Like as Bruce has said, like the poets of today, like they sound okay, but if you stack them up with the earliest 20th century with Eliot and Yates, and I haven't read any of the stuff, but the stuff that I see, like the sentence here and there, and I'm like, oh wow. Where I can see why people would study Shakespeare. I mean, I do to try and understand it, which I also find funny as well. Where it was so popular back in the 1600s, and the great unwashed went to it and just enveloped everything, and they knew what was going on. So that element of we are the smartest people on the planet in history. Yeah. No, read a letter from a farm boy in the Confederate Army in 1863. A, you have to know how to read cursive. B, you'll probably need a dictionary to find out half the words, and their diction is superior to most people in school now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So to bring Raz into the conversation, just substitute Eliot and Yates for Baudelaire, and you'll get it.
But okay, yeah. Charles Baudelaire, all right, yeah.
Well, but okay. Here's a comic quick.
Let me add something quickly, because you were talking about the degradation of language and how it's superior to most of the kids in school. Paul Joseph Watson had in his in his video about music. The research has been done, and the lyrics of music from Moody Blues, Nights in White Satin, to what it is today, Taylor Swift, the level of literacy has gone down to what a 6-year-old is capable of understanding. So the English went from Nights in White Satin to a 6-year-old. So carry on.
Yeah, and that's it's all formulaic, and they make it simple. Now, interesting enough, just had a thought then. I mean, I'll get to my comedic question. I'll say my comedic question, and I'll let you think about it. The idea is just to make you laugh. Are there any French philosophers? There's many. All right, that's the point. But if you look at Churchill's speeches, especially during World War II, he used a lot of old English words. He didn't simplify it, but I'm not sure of the right word, but he used the what's the word? It's not simplified, but he used the old language of certain words to emote a certain idea and to get people riled up in a good way, and to influence or I'm drowning here, but I know what I mean. He didn't. It wasn't dumbed down, but he would simplify.
Let me explain because I know exactly what you're talking about. Because I noticed it in the French language. One of the things that I had the problem was because French is directly derived from Latin. Is there is a certain level of consilience. Consilience meaning lots of word coalesce, lots of meaning coalesce together into one single word of say 10 letters. So simply by saying one word of 10 letters, you can mean like a paragraph worth of things. Okay. Churchill was using the English variants of these old words. These one words can describe a lot. You have to learn a lot before you can understand these one words. But in this day and age, everything is broken down. We don't use that big words anymore.
No, well, the remove critical thinking from schooling, even if in university, they just don't have critical thinking. University now is agree what we're telling you, you'll get out. It's like I thought universities were asked questions and to have discourse and even a level of debate, but now it's just like my way or the highway.
When I was in New Zealand, FYI, my alma mater is the same as Jacinda. We have this bond together. so when I was
you're into
there,
horses? No.
when I was there, they used to criticize me a lot. And this one time, they circled the word intertwine. I said, that's a simple word. They're like, no, it's too big of a word. You have to break it down. That was in 2014.
I did notice that, like, growing up in school, there was a thing of you were taught to simplify things, and then they did a 180, and you had to expand, and so you got to answer this question with 1,000 words. But it says like, but is it raining outside?
Like simple English now. I want to go to the beach. I saw a cat. It was a big cat.
Instead of like, I went outside and the feline hissed at me. It's like a sentence. It has to expand out to a paragraph, and it's just fluff, and it's just a distraction and a waste of time. I actually shared a meme. It's John Goodman did a movie in the late 80s, early 90s called King Ralph. And the premise is that 52 members of the British royal family die at a photo shoot because there was rain and they got all executed. And they figure out that this American John Goodman is the king of England. But the meme was instead of saying instead of saying maybe, you say perhaps, and it's very regal, and it's just you watch stuff from this gentlemanly like stuff because I just recently watched 24 Bond movies, and it's interesting the differences in languages from between 1963 and now, and they're just they're escapism fluff pieces. They're good for what they do. But the language has changed. The language has changed for whatever reason, and it seems to be dumbed down. And rap and hip hop can be not 100%, but it can be like the most popular stuff. It's all slang and ghetto slang and everything else like that. Yeah. However, you can find really good hip hop artists where it's like, my God, he swallowed a thesaurus, or that means he reads the dictionary every night before he goes to bed.
Yeah, well, no one would understand rap then, because they wouldn't know what to rhyme it with. But for everyone in here, I mean, even in the conversation and in the chat, who remembers when we were doing those all comprehension texts and you had to figure out the big words?
Yeah, I remember late 80s. Yeah, in the 80s. Yeah.
We had to do that too, yeah. I mean, these days you don't have to. I've checked because my uncle did. You don't have to.
No.
They actually proposed to teach Creole in here as a language, but the funny thing is it's not a written language. It's a made-up language. So we don't have a dictionary. So you can't teach that which does not have a dictionary.
Yeah, well, it's Bill Hicks has a great routine from the late 80s where he goes to a Waffle House. I was hungry. I'm not proud of it, but I'm reading a book, and the waitress comes over and says, "What are you reading for?" Now, isn't that that's the weirdest question. Not what are you reading, but what are you reading for? Well, I answered it by saying, so I'm not an effing waitress in a Waffle House. So like, what do you want me to do? It's like, well, you can always flip on the tube. What do you think I'm reading? He Haw the book? And then a trucker 2 booths down steps up and was like, ooh, looks like we got ourselves a reader. Have you noticed in the 80s, there was always this drag, if someone was smart and achieved in a bookworm or a nerd, they're always dragged down. It's like, you're smarter than us. It's like, yeah, but if you read a book, you're smart. Like, you can be street smart and you can survive. And I mean, going back to what Bruce was saying about, the next Tesla or the next Albert Einstein, they've got the mind for it, but there isn't the apparatus to support that mind going forward unless they make it a hobby and they go, stuff it. I hate society the way it is, and I'm going to move forward.
Yeah. Language is fascinating. I mean, I live with a group of people here in Costa Rica. Their population is about 17,000 across the whole country. and they have a unique language, Kabakar. And there's other tribes here that don't speak their language. They come from a different grouping of tribes. And the rarest languages in the world are the ones that have no written form. You guys know that, right? And so they have no written form to their language. It's kind of amazing to just kind of interact with people like that, you know.
The problem with that is it mutates too fast, because I speak one. It's Mercian Creole. It's a mixture of Portuguese, Dutch, French, English, Indian, African, but it mutates too fast, too fast. Sometimes they come up with words. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And yeah, I can understand. They come up with words really, really fast. So that's one of the problems, especially with the youngsters, because language is constantly mutating. That's the thing.
Yeah, but you're dealing with the back end of the entropy cycle there, right? I mean, you just talked about a pig language that was cobbled together from a number of European and other languages. This is an original language and an original phonetic structure.
All right. It's in the Creole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, it's really kind of amazing. Like, so I'm a language guy. Language fascinates me. So, living with people like this, I've asked every question you can ask about their language. I'm very curious about it. And, it makes me wonder, where does language come from? Because these people are closer to remembering where language comes from as a culture than we are. We're so far down the rabbit hole now, right?
Well, don't they say that Latin is actually a dead language? And do we know? Well, I'm not agreeing with them, but they still teach it in like high-end universities, or they used to in like the UK in universities. And like in India, they've got old school languages. Here, a lot of the shamanistic tribes that the Vatican / English elite try to get rid of, they still have their languages here in Australia. Aboriginal languages that there's so many because they're all splintered out, but some of them are over 10,000 to 50,000 years old. They're obviously evolved, but they still exist. And I'm fascinated with what Bruce was saying, where they haven't a written form, and that was that whole oral tradition. So like, why would you need to write it down where you can actually speak it? You learn it and you speak it, and you pass on the information to the next generation.
Language is, well, it's a latent ability, and all we do is attach words to meaning. So by the use of primitive intonation, mata, pa, pe, ko, ka, that sort of thing. But yeah, where exactly does it come from? Maybe some alien told them. Who knows?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, English sounds very close to Flemish, I think it is, and it's it can go back to Germany, and it's just how sounds and evolves and accents as well, where everyone, I'm on an American radio station. You got an accent. I do not. You do. Everyone thinks everyone else has a different accent, and the Australian accent. The New Zealand has a certain accent because that's mainly Scottish immigrants that went there, and you've got the Maori influence. Australia is got that element of Cockney, as well as from the convicts being Irish, Scottish, Welsh, as well as English as well. And so in South Africa, which speak English, but that's from a Dutch past. Then you've got the American accents, where can you imagine having someone, a black from Glasgow, a black from Massachusetts, a black from Arizona, and a black from Scotland? I've said that. But, you can have all, genetically they're all from the same country, but their accents are so heavy, they have no idea what they're saying to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
You're on season 3, Peaky Blinders, right? You haven't reached the Scots yet. I think it's season 4, season 5. Yeah, I watched all of it in like a week.
Well, there's only 6 episodes. It's very British, but they're hour long, and but the story just keeps moving forward. There's no fluff, where like say American television would have 22 episodes, and it's like, oh, that's filler, that's filler, that's filler. But the English just condense everything down to, I can get a story across in 6 hours. It's longer than film. Like,
I've seen a trend lately. All the TV shows I've watched had gangs in it, had cocaine in it, had a
yeah,
lot of violence.
I've noticed
in it.
that too.
What
Yeah,
the hell
why
has
is
been
it?
going on?
Yeah, because the world's been like this always. It's just been more exposed. It's like, well, are we watching all this crime stuff to learn how everything works? It's like Bruce suggested Freefall. No, Snowfall, sorry. Freefall's about skydiving. Snowfall, and it's an alternative reality of the CIA funding the Contras using the crack epidemic in Los Angeles. So there's 4 seasons of that, and then I watched The Wire, which is all about heroin and crack as well, and then Peaky Blinders, Narcos, all 6 seasons, and I'm like, maybe I should start watching superhero movies again. Anyway, we're halfway through Planet Collingwood, because my cat's yelling at me through the backyard. She's probably a bit wet because it rained. So we'll be back after these messages. Stick around. We're having fun. I hope you are too. Oh, I do love the smell of rain, especially after 4 days of boiling. Welcome back to Planet Collingwood. Broadcasting from Wafer Thin HQ, deep in Melbourne suburbia, and the temperature's dropped 10 degrees Celsius. So outside's lovely. I'm still sweating. Go figure. But the cat's inside, so I'll probably have to let her out into the rain because she's weird. If you enjoyed the last hour, please go to freedomslits.com and or revolution.radio and click on the Patreon button and give what you can, because we're 100% listener supported and everything does help. We're 100% volunteer. We're just 100%. And until someone tells me I'm wrong, I would say that we're the longest crowdfunding project on the internet today. I'm sure there's something else, and I'm not referring to taxpayers, because that's a whole different story. And once you're at the website, see if you want to buy some merch, and then pop into the chat room, where once again it's just gone quiet because my show's on, because they're laughing so much and they can't get to the keyboard. That's how I rationalise it. Now let's start this new hour. Of course, I've been joined by Bruce MacDonald and Raz. Cortec, I don't know what happened to him. He fell down a mine shaft, and Lassie's trying to find out where I live so she can tell me that Cortec's fallen down a mine shaft. But let's start with a bit of comedy. We're familiar with the artist Neil Young, aren't we?
Yes. He's got a heart of gold, Monty.
Yeah, and a horse with no name, but apparently the horse says, "My name's Frank, you bastard." Well, apparently Neil Young has, through his manager, given Spotify an ultimatum, and it's either me or Joe Rogan. So how do you think that's going to end?
Yeah, bye-bye, Neil.
Yeah, so everyone under 40, who? Because Neil Young's 74, but apparently because Joe Rogan is spewing misinformation about vaccines and it's dangerous, I don't want to be on the same platform as Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan is getting 200 million hits a month, and I think Neil gets about 6. So I can see how that...
Neil's part of that generation that did acid like cornflakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, he hasn't really done much. Like he's good for what he's done. Let's be fair, but you can't. He's not that big. Joe Rogan is huge, and you can tell these people don't watch Joe Rogan. They watch clips or they take things out of context.
Well, the media is the perfect observer, right? And to stay relevant, they have to be aware of every trend and where human attention is going. And they're like the ultimate possessive girlfriend, right? Because when they start to lose attention, they get really, really kind of bratty. And there are a lot of cat swipes at Joe Rogan now. And the way they're coming at him, they had a story in a Canadian newspaper. X number of doctors sign a petition to
yes, I heard that.
Stop Joe Rogan from passing junk science on. Man, I listened to 6 hours between Malone and McCullough. I defy you to tell me, what was junk about those interviews.
Yeah, and all he's doing is asking a question. He asks questions, and here's the weird bit. He listens, and he's having a conversation. So it's not. It's Joe Rogan's not out there. So like burn Fauci at the stake. I mean, he has expressed himself because Fauci just keeps making mistakes and mistakes. I mean, the cult-like status. You can get a Fauci doll. That's the level we're at with Fauci. People think he's a god because he's saving people, and it's unless you look at the scientific data and it's like, what the hell are you on about?
Yeah.
Joe Rogan gets 11 million people usually for one show, and CNN's getting less than 1 million. So the legacy media are freaking out because more people are watching Joe Rogan than the propaganda wing of the New World Order.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe Rogan is his own form of propaganda. I mean, he's affiliated with Jones and everything. They can't take him down, believe me. They won't take him down.
Well, no, and you don't have to watch him, and you don't have. I think we defend his right
I'm
to
not
free speech.
opposed to Joe Rogan or anything.
And that's we don't have to be. That's the point where it's like, well, if you don't like him, don't watch him. Oh, but he's spreading misinformation. Like NBC or CBS or the CBC about the truckers convoy in Canada. Like here in Australia, where 2,000 people are protesting the vaccine mandates, and they put up a photo, and there's 15,000 people in the photo. Like, journalism is losing more credibility now because instead of they put forward a story where it was hard to verify or it was believable, they're putting up stories which are completely fiction.
Propaganda was the wrong term. Let's just call him the guy who, alongside Jordan Peterson, is part of rallying the strays that is currently the right, the from the middle to the right. Their job is to rally the strays and bring them to a certain camp. And like Bruce said, so the psychotic girlfriend can have an easier time monitoring them.
Interesting enough, Dr. Peterson just did a show with Joe Rogan, and apparently it went for 4.5 hours. So that's going to be an investment if you watch it.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch that because I'm very concerned about this Peterson fellow. Yeah, him and his heterodox academy,
I don't really. I'm not a disciple of Peterson, but he makes me think. Same way that Ben Shapiro. I don't agree with them, but at least the brain starts to go, well, hang on, that idea kind of makes sense. Let me think about it for a while. I don't agree with it, but at least they thought. It's instead of watching Rachel Maddow, where it's like it's this, and if you disagree, you're a racist, Nazi, fascist. You're not allowed to actually absorb. That's the thing about trying to take. They removed. Is it Malone? Who was the second doctor about the vaccines, Bruce? You mentioned his name earlier.
McCullough.
No, the other one.
Malone.
Yeah, they removed all the clips of that from YouTube, and guess what? 50% of the people now want to go see it because it's been banned. That's the when you censor something, people, it's like, well, why? I want to see why it's been censored instead of just ignoring it, let it fizzle out. They're giving it And do you know the story of why it's called the Barbra Streisand effect? Do you know the story where that came from?
Yep. Because of her the picture of her house.
Yeah, someone was taking photos of her Malibu mansion or something, and she said, "Please stop that." And everyone went and have a look at it. It's just basic human thing. Like, if a kid's playing with a toy, another kid wants it, and they say no, they want it more. Even the Simpsons point this out. It's like you don't really want this. You just want to bug me. Oh yeah, prove it. Here, have it. Oh, I don't want it now. It's that. Welcome to humanity on Earth.
But to go back to the earlier topic. Just to give you a very roused definition of Peterson, I don't like him.
Yeah, I sense that.
Yeah. but he is the shepherd that was dispatched to rally the stray sheep because they knew there would be a stray sheep. And when I saw Peterson and his lackeys call themselves the dark web intellectual, my blood was boiling. Oof. My blood was boiling. I'm like, how dare he? The hubris. The guy's on a horse tranquilizer. Like, holy shit, man.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I may not agree with it, but that's not the point. I at least I see your point of view and like, okay. I also, yep, cool. Won't agree with 100%, but I don't have to, and I'm
I
not going to
would
fight you
say,
for it either.
I would say he is good at waking up the normies. He is good at waking up normies, but he's not gonna let them down the right path.
Well, yeah, you don't
Monty,
want to. He's not a yes, Mr. MacDonald.
Monty, the other guest on this show, could you tell him he's starting to get a bit offensive?
Who is that? Am
Yeah,
I?
it's just too subtle for most people, Monty. I got to stop trying to be funny.
Ah!
Yeah, I mean, I can see subtle from here from your joke. So yeah, maybe
I don't have to. I'm Canadian, and I don't have to call you him, he because of Jordan Peterson. They tried to pass a law. They literally tried to pass a law, and
Yeah.
and he single-handedly beat it down.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, like there's good points, but you don't have to join the cult. So
Yeah, I
like,
understand that. Understand.
and I get the feeling he doesn't want a cult because everyone, the classic thing of like, oh, he's a Nazi and he's a right winger, blah blah blah, and someone
So-
actually, what do you think of Nazis following you?
So-
I hate them.
I'll give you. Yeah, I'll give you my Jordan Peterson peeve. I mean, here's the thing that just rubs me the wrong way. If you write a book with the word lesson in the title, that just rubs me the wrong way. Or even worse is lessons.
Yeah. But he just makes people think. Even like watching Ben Shapiro, the bits I've seen that I enjoyed, it's like, oh, he's talking about ideas, and it made me think. I didn't join Daily Wire. I don't watch everything he does. He certainly has his own. He's got his personal character. Like we could go through history of where like great actors are just themselves. Like if you drew a Jeff Goldblum impression, it's just Jeff Goldblum. He's not a character actor. He's Jeff Goldblum acting. You know, he's got that certain cadence thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger's got the same thing. Bill Shatner, they all got their unique. James Mason, they've got that uniqueness, and Ben Shapiro's got that certain timbre where you can, where I'm doing a bad impression of him, but it could be good if I worked on it.
Yeah. I'm not a huge Shapiro fan. I would put him and Peterson together, and I guess
Because
what they both represent.
They are together.
Yeah, they both represent the Abrahamic culture and the sort of autonomy given to man through those scriptures, Old or New Testament, and the forces against them. I don't know what they are really, but so much of what we see going on now is just like slash and burn culture. That's the way like nomadic people do agriculture, is they burn a few acres, and then they wait for a good rain, and then the ash gets into the earth and they go in and they plant. But it's non-sustainable. There's just so much anger in the young people, and we did it through all you see, we're all mature adults, and we've lived really in the generation that was the first to really be co-raised by media. And my mom and dad weren't sitting in front of a television when they grew up. They're in their 80s, and
we're from a time.
It started out pretty slow. I mean, we can all remember the Indian in the Circle when the channel goes off on the black and white TV, right?
Oh, I remember when to call someone, you just hoped they were at home. Remember when the phone was attached to the wall by a cord? So we remember the old days before the digital revolution and the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. And so and again, this is another idea of the proliferation of storytelling, because media is a form of storytelling, but it's gone from something constructive to something completely destructive. which fulfills the inversion mandate of our time. But anyways, Peterson and Shapiro are just like old guard guys, right? And I'm not sure that kind of society will survive, to be honest with you.
Would you put what's his Neil Patrick Harris? No, not who's the science guy? Neil something Tyson.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Neil deGrasse is more lip service, but Shapiro and Jordan actually are scientists by career, and they've actually put out work. The thing about Neil deGrasse Tyson is he's never put out work.
Yeah, well, the thing is, what I like about Neil, I can't remember his middle name, but Tyson. So I shared a meme where, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I shared a meme where it's like Romeo, Juliet is the sun, and then Tyson's from the balcony screams, "No, she's not," and that just, to me, it made me laugh, and that's how he encapsulates it, because he seems to be putting out, he backs up his scientific theory, which could be right, could be wrong, but that's part of it, where people aren't having a discussion, and you can't have disagreements without going to war.
Yeah.
I'm sure people argue over which is the best Darren from Bewitched. Now, everyone under 40, what's Bewitched?
Speaking of the guy under 40, what's Bewitched? Let me Google it. You always carry on.
Easy, son. Do you want to live to my age? All right, let's move on. That's my gag, to tell the kids to stop. Bewitched was just a sitcom in the late 60s, and the main character, Elizabeth someone, she was a witch, and she would do magic by jiggling her nose, and she was married to Darren, who was just a normal person, and because of that's the tension of a magic person and a normie, the two worlds would interact. It's very similar. It was around about the same time as I Dream of Jeannie, and very similar concept, but completely different at the same time. So yeah, and it's fascinating, just the level of television in the 60s. Like, Bruce, did you know that Get Smart went for 8 or 9 seasons?
I did.
Yeah, and 99 doesn't have a name. It was never mentioned, and they never gave her one.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Because what's 99's name? And she says the name Susan once, but that turns out to be a cover. So it's classic writing, where the example is of Maris in Frasier. They never hired anyone. You never saw her, and it was just funnier. You never heard her and never saw her, and the character is integral to the whole piece, and the comedy that came out of it was brilliant. Because if you actually had someone play her, it changes your picture of her in your mind's eye. It's similar to in Snow White, where the witch has died because she's fallen down a ravine, but that's a Disney death. Like, oh, she falls into a valley, but you just see her just disappear off screen. So you just go, oh, she died. You don't actually, like, now I'm sure they'll see it tumbling down the side, breaking bones and blood going everywhere, but people are sick.
Yeah.
Speaking of TV shows, anyone here watch Peacemaker?
Yes.
Not yet.
Did you notice the tendency of putting music every 5 seconds?
Yes.
How did you feel about that?
What is this, a quick fire round? Yes. But what's it like? Because it's DC. Is it woke? Is it stupid? What's the overall feel of it?
Let me start by saying I like John Cena in it, but I only like John Cena in it. I don't really care about the rest of the guys.
I didn't like the character in Suicide Squad. I mean, I was watching Pete Capaldi all the way through it, going, "Oh, look, the doctor's got crap on his head." But Bruce, what was your view of Peacemaker?
Well, it's multifold. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to keep. I don't know if I'm going to keep watching it. It's it's okay, but it's.
I watched it on fast forward.
Yeah. Okay. So remember when subscription cable service started with HBO, and it really didn't blow up until The Sopranos came out 20 years ago. And what was unique about The Sopranos is we could finally see long-form drama television in all the sort of glory of a cinema with language and behavior and nudity and adult situations. And they took that liberty and they used it extremely well. Peacemaker's the literal and diametric opposite of that.
Yeah. So it's not, is there any adult themes? Because
it's filthy. It's like Crack House National Lampoon humor.
Yeah, because I didn't, because it's James Gunn, the one that got cancelled for all that pedophile stuff, but he's come back and he's still doing Guardians of the Galaxy 3 for Marvel, and he's already done the Suicide Squad for DC, and I think he's linked to this TV show because that's where Peacemaker was introduced into the DCU, the Detective Comics universe.
What got to me was their precise knowledge that a lot of teenagers will be watching it, and the language in it. The language in the sense that every single new buzzword, from cape shit to Berenstein, everything was in there. They were very, very, it's like there was a team that always sits on social media assisting the writing of it. It was quite something listening to that. It's like a bunch of teenagers on Twitter. That's how the dialogue level was, and that got to me.
I watched all the 4 seasons of The Good Place, and one thing I didn't like was it's the not the ghetto speak, but the street level. But it's like come on, bruh, bro, and all that sort of level. I'm like, not everyone talks like that. I'm probably less than 10% of Americans talk like that, but it's doing that. And there was another one. The Orville, which was basically better than Star Trek today, but it still had that 21st century street vernacular. And it's supposed to be 400 years from now. That's what I liked about Star Trek, in the 80s and the 90s. It's like, well, this is 2453, and it talks like that. I mean, when Star Wars was made, a lot of the actors were like, who speaks like this? Well, technically, it's thousands of years ago in a different galaxy. I find it weird where people, I don't like some of the acting in Star Wars. They're wooden. How do you know how an alien works or expresses themselves? Maybe it's just me, my brain, accepting that they're coming across wooden. But you can't put, when you're watching a show about aliens in the past, you can't actually figure out, you can't compare it to your next door neighbor. Blessing in the chat. Peacemaker is a new TV show, comic book TV show and also a heater, and I think a missile too, which is slightly ironic because we'll send him the Peacemaker. You kill people. But what we've been talking about is a TV show starring John Cena, who seems to be a Chinese lackey because he called Taiwan or something. Yeah. There's comedy out there, people. That's what I'm getting at.
Somebody throw Monty a life raft.
Yeah, I'm trying to dig up, but it's not working.
Oh, big hook, Monty. Pulled off stage.
See, I don't have Cortec with his slug joke. That's the problem. Or is it the snail joke? Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of name is that anyways, Cortec?
Well, it's very, I would say it's internet speak. It's very close to cortex, so like parts of the brain, get into your cortex. But core tech, tech could mean technology. I mean, it's with a K, but that's how these kids spell nowadays, where everything's like. I mean, it's fascinating enough trying to learn people's names from different cultures, and then you get the Western way where, let me think. Like Jamie could be Yami, or like this. Half the letters aren't actually mentioned in the. Like, have you seen what Elon Musk called his son? And it looks like a physicist equation.
No.
Yeah, it just I don't know. I think he was just taking the piss.
Well, he's weird.
Yeah, and a billionaire. So that's the difference between insane and eccentric is about $1 billion.
Yeah. So he's done well for himself. Smart guy, I'm sure, but he's weird. So what do you guys notice around you now? Are you starting to see inflation?
It's creeping in here. Prices are slowly going up. The petrol keeps fluctuating. Like at the moment, it's $1.59 a litre, and they're like, "Oh, that's low." And it's like, no, that's extremely high. It should be $1 or $1.10. But the world we live in, and blah blah blah. I'm sure there's an element of COVID, but how these people work, where everything is the thing. But you got the United States where, like, are all those tankers still out in the LA Bay just waiting to be unloaded?
I don't know. I don't think we have any American representation on this show, Monty.
What about you, Raz? Because you're dare I say, you can see Africa from where you are. So like you could be our African correspondent. What's it like in your part of the world?
Technically, I am African, so yeah, via passport they will call me African. So yeah, it's been going up 17%, 18%, 19%. Some other product 21%, but everything has gone up. Everything has gone up.
Yeah.
The only thing that saves me is I live in a place with a lot of green, and my sugarcane fields, neighbors the place where I live, the village where I live, and we have access to local fresh produce. So it's not exactly something we have to depend on supermarket. But if right now I was depending on supermarket for veggies, I'd be screwed. I'll be honest, I'd be screwed. I wouldn't be able to afford more than, say, 2 red onions, a bag full of potatoes, even simple stuff like mint and everything. I wouldn't be able to afford any of it. So yeah, I have to go for locals, and it's quite cheap that way. I'll be honest with you. I can get free chicken in what would be $2 for you guys. Free whole live chicken, alive, with eggs and everything in them. So if I cut them, I can get like 6 eggs for $2. That's really, really good in here for the currency in here, because
it's kind of the positive side of what's going on is because you are going local, you're basically going to a farmer or someone who's, it's like 1 or 2 steps. Like you actually go to a farm and meet the farmers, like I'll take that, or you are meeting a seller who knows the farmer. Compared to
the thing is, life for us Mauritians, especially for me in the south of Mauritius, has always been this cut and trace, cut here, traced here, and try to figure out the most efficient way of making a living. We're going to buy our produce this place because it's better. We're going to buy our meat here because it's cheaper, or we're going to buy it directly. Or if we have for instance, if there's a big feast that's going to feed 200 people, we're going to buy it directly. We're not going to buy it from a guy selling in a supermarket or something. We're going to go directly to the fucking port and get it. Sorry, can't say that word. So yeah, we have that culture in here. We don't have the culture of what you would have in a big city. We don't have that in here.
Well, that's like, I don't know. I mean, it's different for Bruce because he's got his mountain hideaway, and you only go to town once a week or something like that. For me, I'm in a big city. I'm like 15 kilometers from the city center. I'm a 4-minute drive to 2-3 different supermarkets, and who knows what produce it goes through, because it would probably get created with the farmer and then sent to a distribution center, and then travels to another center, which gets put onto the supermarkets thing, and there's keeping it fresh and frozen and everything else like that. Or there's a local groceries where they obviously have, even Aldi's kind of like that here. They try and work with local they cut down the supply line, and so there's less handling from the creator of the food and the seller.
Okay. Yeah, I got a lot of food up here too, man. Like, and just my neighbors, right? And you can buy stuff. Like, I buy directly off my neighbors. Like bananas, platano, tomatoes, peppers. I always forget to mention this on Revolution Radio. Do you know what you know what I have now, fully matured, and it blooms like a couple times a year, is a papaya plant I got from Mike Ringley's seed pack. And oddly enough, the papaya is the only thing that has truly survived over here from those 3 packs I bought. But I just had Revolution Radio papaya this week. I pulled one was ripe and I pulled it off the plant, and it was delicious.
Actually, I
And
remember Bruce sending me a Zac Efron show, which I think was on Netflix, and they went to Costa Rica. And the amount of fruit, like it is a Garden of Eden, that country, because
yeah,
the food that's grown there cannot be grown anywhere else, and it can't be transported because it doesn't survive the trip. And so, if you want very unique fruits, where I'm sure you have a slice and you're tripping balls for 8 months, so like it's fascinating. When I do get to your house, Bruce, we have to go on a fruit tour because it's just to actually have the taste, because it's so unique, and because of it's not, they can't get the refrigeration right. There's some reason that they can't transport it, and that's why it's very unique to the area.
yeah, yeah. You get a lot of. I have a guy who's going to come and see me from San Jose, an American guy, and he wants to come out and talk to me. He's a rep. He's repping some. I don't know, some big people in the fruit business, but there's this fruit that is really expensive in China, and they have calculated that specifically where I live is a perfect growing area. So I got a cold call from this guy through a Facebook expatriate group in Costa Rica with about 35,000 members, and he's coming out in a couple weeks. But it's kind of weird, like the stuff that comes up in your life over here. The abaca's, growing really well, and what my son and I want to do now is we have like a hectare of land, 2.6 acres at the back of the houses, and we just want to get into like a full food farm now, like a 1 hectare permaculture food farm, like everything, like tilapia ponds, fruits and vegetables, get some trees planted, some 2-year-old trees, and then get going. But right around me, like I've got an avocado tree. It's not actually on my property, but it's on the church property. And I'm telling you, when that thing comes in bloom, you have avocados every day, every meal for 6 weeks. It's like
Yeah.
avocado again.
Yeah.
you know?
Well, it's avocado season again.
Yeah.
But I mean, also like if your farm gets up and running, and if you have tough times, you still have a community of 200 people to actually sell it. So you won't be throwing away anything, will you?
Yeah. So, absolutely, yeah. And one of my neighbors started a pretty good permaculture project. My neighbor Ramon, and with about 8 neighbors, and half of them are Nicaraguan, and they've got a really good food farm going there. They even have their own coffee. It's delicious.
Ooh.
So I want to, there's a lot of stuff I can do that I haven't really gotten around to doing. I sit at my desk too much, but I'm not working at a book now, so I'm going to get on to, and my son's here too, so we're getting on all these projects, right? And just create a place where, as the years roll in, I have a really good food supply, and it's all like grown here, and money won't be a big issue, and just have enough space that whoever is in my life at that point can come and stay here for extended periods of time. Now we're building another house too this year. We've already decided on that. So yeah, things are kind of nice over here. I'm glad I made the decisions I did. Obviously, I mean, it's worked out pretty well, and I just worry, as I watch my home country and North America, which I have a tremendous emotional connection to, go through this very, very difficult assault. I'm not even going to call it a trial. It's an assault.
Yeah.
You know?
Just, I mean, there's a lot of memes about Joe Biden has very low approval rating, and so his answer is to start a war with Russia in winter.
Well,
someone hasn't read a history book. Like, you never start a war with Russia in winter.
That's only if you're invading them, though. But you know,
yeah. Napoleon found out the hard way. Hitler found out the hard way. It's like you don't invade Afghanistan. It's the graveyard for empires. And that's not just a funny quote. It's an actual term for a reason.
Yeah. So 2022 is going to be a blender of a year, because even if we get COVID and that narrative dispelled and the mandatory vaccines dispelled and all of that, now comes the economic chaos, right? So the inflation is setting in. And when that sets in, what they have to do as a defense mechanism is raise the interest rates. And that completely screws over anybody who bought a house in the last 5 or 7 years, when the interest rates have been really, really low, like near zero at the central bank. Well, if you throw in quantitative easing, it's technically zero at the issuance level, right? So there's so many things wrong with this economy now from a mathematical and a sustainability point of view. And they're making their best case by destroying the first world economies. They're making a very, very strong case for the Great Reset, because by the time they're done trashing these economies, there's going to be no other option. Well, we can reset, or you can starve. And this is really what's going on. You know, and now whether they're going to be successful or not, I don't know. The one thing I've resolved is that the idea of a centralized authority sustaining your lives and giving you psychological comfort, those days are over. You can't go back, no matter what. Now, people have to figure out other ways to live.
Because before World War II.
If you don't stand up to them now, you've literally lost all respect. You know, you have no respect in the relationship as citizenry. You're just chattel. Now, it's been creeping up on that for a number of decades, but it's fully manifest now. And that's when the dents start to get things. And we have to figure out where the dents are going to go with this, you know. And there we are. There's my analysis of 2022. Take it as you will.
Yep. And I'm going to respond by saying I'm tired of living through a historical event. Can I have a month off? Like, keep asking Andrew. So why did I come here? Why am I here? Because you agreed to it. Can I see someone's manager? Really? Like, what the?
Speaking of historical event, we have Ukraine coming. I don't even know what's going to happen there, but they're moving a lot of troops. Yeah.
Well, they're not going to do anything. They're not going to stop the invasion. Joe Biden actually said that today, that if Russia invades, that they're not going to go to war with Russia. So
no, they won't.
War-wise,
there won't be anything, but there will be a little bit of a skirmishes here and there. So,
well, Ukraine is still technically in a war anyway, and do they want to prop up the Nazi regime that they put in as well? Because there was I think that's how the whole thing started. I believe they all speak Russian anyway, and Ukraine is basically the gateway to Europe. I'm not saying Russia's going to take over Europe, but that's how it's like the border country between North Asia and Europe. And if we want to talk energy harvesting, there may be a little skirmish and a battle, and you'll be shooting and stuff, but it won't be. It's better to have people think there's going to be a war than an actual war. They learned that from World War II, where it's like it's too much destruction, and now it's about hearts and minds, basically. So if you want to get some premium loot, that's why the Cold War worked so well, where nothing actually happened, but there was this build up and there was a fear of something might happen. And instead of something happening, nothing happens, and they kick the can down the road.
Yeah.
which is, which you can do the same thing as well, where Bruce, you're in a perfect position for what. I can understand why you're sort of in slight shock of like, hang on, I'm in heaven, because you've got a loving family, you've got food, you can do what you want, and you have an internet connection. Like, what else apart from seeing live performances? You've got everything.
Well, I was never really that big on live performances, anyways. But
I guess that because you're very happy where you are. But yeah, apart from if I went to live there, I would be complaining of like, oh, Iron Maiden's touring again. Like, I'll miss. So, but apart from that, yeah, the hermit life for me. I'll live on a mountain.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, and it's nice to have my son here, and my work is going quite well now. So at a time of difficult economy for a lot of people, I'm doing quite well in that area. And I'm just going to keep putting it into land-based enterprises here because I don't think that's going anywhere, So, looking for what I'm going to do next, whether it's going to be some exotic fruit or, what James McCanny told me? He told me I should do tea. He had a compelling case because it's one of the easiest harvests ever. You just go around with a cotton bag and pick tea leaves,
Mm-hmm.
And
it is actually.
Pardon
Unless
me?
you're over 6'2", then you're gonna break your back. You have to bend when you pick it up.
Use your knees.
So yeah. Creatively, I could be a little bit more challenged right now. I don't have a book to work on. Maybe that's a good thing. I'm tinkering with a book with my son, but that'll be a while. Yeah, it's a nice life. There's a very natural cycle here right now, right? So we're very relaxed because the abaca is going to be cut in about 4 weeks, and so we're kind of getting mentally prepared for that, or at least my son is, because he's gonna do that too. But we just sort of like take it easy, right? Which is how people used to live when they followed the seasons, right? I mean, in the winter you just relaxed, you read, you put on 10 pounds, maybe did some repairs around the barn and stuff, but
get yourself some wine barrels.
Yeah,
beer barrels.
So that's, whereas, in the North American work schedule now, to maintain your bills, it's just like you're either not working or you're working 60 hours a week, and there's like no balance anymore there.
Yeah, things are getting way out of hand. Like, I know you use the example of a yearly's wage and how much a property is. There's been whispers of the property market here is going to take a dump because it's getting totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's, $1 million for a house, but you're still earning $50,000 a year. It's like, well, yeah, there's a lot of what are they? Not millennials. What's the next one? Gen Z. A lot of young people don't see themselves owning any property because they've been outpriced because of the ridiculousness of everything.
Yeah, it's very depressing, man. Very, very depressing for this generation coming up.
Hopefully the Zoomers won't get pods to live in. I mean, that pod idea is ridiculous.
Well, I mean, that's element critical thinking of like, well, hang on, the mainstream media keeps putting forward a false reality, and it can't be sustained anymore because what you're seeing in reality is a completely 180, or it's not at, does Trudeau keep saying that Canada is a free country?
Yeah.
But the actions of him and what's happening, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where that's slowly waking people up, because it's like, and then how are you going to push the Great Reset? It's like, oh, this is the only way. But that's a classic problem, reaction, solution. Now, I'm sure we could have a Great Reset, but do we want the one they're putting forward? Like, I maintain that globalism, on paper, it sounds good if it happens naturally, but what we actually having, where it's being dictated and pushed in a certain thing. Like, I mean, the United Nations was created so there wouldn't be any more war in 1947. Well, have you seen what's happened in the last 70 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that let's delve into satanic institutionalized, or however you say it. It's completely 180, where it's like, we want free democracy, we're a democracy, so we'll have free elections, but we won't have voter ID. So, I mean, especially after the 2020 federal election, the US government still wants to have the honor system with voting.
Yeah. All of the narratives being put towards us now are completely absurd. This is what for them. This must be what it felt like if you were like a senior editor at Pravda in 1988 in Moscow. You know, waking up and going into work on a Monday morning. And you're in charge of a public organ, and nobody likes the tune, and they all know you're out of tune. It's got to be difficult, to live that. I don't know how these people do it. It's just, where's their heart? Where's their integrity?
Yeah. Well, I read an article or a headline that apparently a university has a warning on 1984 because some of the ideas expressed in the book may be distressing.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's you just explain what happens in the book.
Well, it is time for them to erase the old culture and slap the new. They're engineering their world.
Yeah, but the new doesn't seem. The new sucks. Like, how does anyone?
Yeah, to you, not to them.
But even then, it's like the amount of hypocrisy. It's so transparent. And it's so like how like I shared a meme and people love it. It's a young lady sitting on a subway or a train, and there's a big fat guy with his pants just a little bit below the equator, leaning on the glass separation between the seat and the door, and it's like me just trying to live my life, and the guy's butt crackers, the New World Order, and it's like that's basically where we're at. So like just. Even going back to Jordan Peterson, I do enjoy his Twitter because he had 2 vaccines for the doses because he chose, okay, I'll do this and you'll leave me alone, and they haven't left him alone, and he's blowing his top all the time, and he's slamming the Canadian government. It's a joy to behold, just the fervent anger that Jordan has about just the hypocrisy that the government's going through because he's Canadian, so. He knows exactly what's happening he's been rallying against the stupidity. And of course, Trudeau's just gone, well, I'm in charge, so I'll do everything. Did you see the footage of him nearly getting stoned to death when he was on the campaign? And big shout out to the security detail who kept their composure and integrity, and they did their job, but you could tell they so wanted to be with the protesters and not helping him.
Yeah. Well, it's a weird time. You got to wonder who's voting the guy in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any now the problem here in Australia? It's election year. We've got a federal election in about 2 months, and in November we have a state election here in Victoria. You have the midterms for the US, and so the campaigning's starting up all over the place. From a basic point of view here in Australia, there really isn't any opposition. The government's utter shite, but there's no opposition. Now in Canada, is there a choice? Like, is there someone better, or is the opposition to the government that bad? That's why the government keeps winning. Yeah, in a very basic term.
Yeah. So the 2-party dynamic that we see in parliamentary and Republican jurisdictions now, it isn't working anymore. The dynamic tension isn't there. There's no opposition. It's a very unique time we live in, so it's a very interesting question that you ask, Monty. The simple answer is the opposition to Trudeau is pathetic. We got a Sikh communist leading the New Democratic Party. We've got a breakaway separatist federal party leading Quebec, the Bloc Québécois. We have a Western aligned party, which is mainly the Conservative Party now. They've shifted west, and they can't really get into Quebec because they keep putting in Anglophone leaners who don't speak French. And so, yeah, it's unbelievable how bad the political scene is now in Canada. And we have this, particular guy, and his mission is to destroy the country, as is the same thing with Biden.
Yeah, not so much here in Australia. Just Scotty from marketing, which is his nickname, is an idiot. Like, other idiots go, "Wow, dude, just calm down." Like, he's the idiot's idiot. Raz, in Mauritius, what are you seeing from your governmental point of view? Like, do you have a Stalin in charge and there's no opposition, or what's going on?
We are a weird nation. We got a bunch of Indians in charge, which is not something I enjoy, and not many Indians in here enjoy. Actually, no one do. We want white people to rule us. No kidding. That's an actual thing in this country.
Is it British colonialism? No, we can do better, and we'll prove it by we're not leading you for the next 4 years.
The thing is, though, we are the one who we are entirely reactionary to whatever ripples is coming. Is coming to us. So there is no baddie here. There is no goodie here. If the world is burning, we're gonna, get smothered in the smoke. If the world is good, we're good. If the world says wear your mask, we wear our mask. The fun thing is when London is going out of a lockdown, we're going out of lockdown at the exact same time. When London is getting a new variant, we're getting the same thing. When Paris was going through its vaccination mandate, and they call it passeport sanitaire. We were going through the same thing too. So we're entirely reactionary when it comes to these things. This isn't exactly a bad place to live in, but politics is not something you want to keep up with in here because it's boring.
Yeah, well, it seems instead of causing drama, it's like, we'll just follow better countries. I'm not saying that. Yeah,
that's exactly what everyone does. Last time in here, we had a protest for Palestine. We had a protest for them. It's like, what the hell?
I don't know. Yeah. What, protest against them or for them?
For them, because there was some things happening. Everyone was like, "Hey, come on, don't do that to them."
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Now, I'm sure you'll be labelled as anti-Semite because that's the routine. And the thing is, at some point, the Jews are persecuted. Has anyone in any moment in history pointed out, like, you aren't innocent in this? Now, being persecuted is bad, but maybe stop being a complete bastard as well. You know what I mean? It's like they can, certain groups label everyone else as anti-Semite racist, and then get in the conversation with them about the Goyim, and then it's like, wow, you're actually acting like the same way as the people that you're fighting against.
I think, Monty, to sum up on that idea, that the ideal outcome of World War II would have been an end to the master race and the chosen people as perpetuating concepts in the global consciousness.
Yeah, or actually, you don't really need a two-party system, but that's the other thing. Like, Israel's been at war at least once every decade since it was founded again. And Palestine's gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's, if I criticize the Israeli government, it's because of their actions, not their religious beliefs. But everyone just jumps on, "Oh, you're an anti-Semite." I don't care if they're Jews. If they're punching their wife, I'm not going to look the other way because they've got a little hat on their head.
Yeah.
Now, if that couple's walking down the street and they're in love and they're enjoying life, and three guys come up and try and rob them and beat them up, guess whose side I'm going to be on? Not the three guys. Well, I'm going to help the couple who are being mugged.
Oh, okay. All right.
Metaphorically.
Yeah, okay. I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, no good deed goes unpunished. Yeah, well, that's Earth, so suck it up.
I think we did pretty good without Cortac.
Yeah. He'll be benched next week, but he'll get a Guernsey. I don't know.
Rue the day.
Exactly. He missed it last time, so I can imagine in about 6 minutes. When's the show on? So, You're all also welcome back. So we're coming up to the end of the show. So that was Planet Collingwood. I'm Monty Dean. He's Bruce MacDonald, and that's Raz. Cortec is in the changing rooms for whatever reason. If you enjoyed the last 2 hours, donate to the station. If you're listening on YouTube, click the like button and share it. And if you feel so bold, just go to my channel page, and there's a PayPal link if you want to give me a couple of shekels so I can make my cat happy. She's happy at the moment because she's realised she can't go out yet. So yeah. So we'll be back in 6 days and 22 hours. A fun chat as always. I hoped people got some laughs out of it and some information, as is our want. Any passing thoughts, Bruce?
No.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. Raz, any parting shots?
Here's TV
this is going to be a
show
while. Oh, go ahead.
Here are TV shows for you guys to watch. Watch 000 and Devil. They're both very good. That's all I have to say.
Okay, I'll try. I'll add that to the list because I've got a lot to watch. So, but there you go. So I'm not sure what's coming up next, and but yeah, just have fun. I love you from afar, and we'll keep it that way.
We'll meet in dream space.
Yep, as always, yep. Some of my dreams have been weird as well.
Mine's been extremely weird. Extremely weird.
Oh, just the energies and of course the sun's playing funny buggers. And yeah, it's an interesting time.
All
as long
the
as we get through
planets are
it.
playing funny buggers. All the planets.
I know. It's a galactic thing. Thank you, everyone. That was the show. Enjoy. Back next week, and have fun, everyone. Have fun. See you soon.
Bye-bye.